Did you know that Nicolae Ceausescu, the infamous Romanian dictator, was born in a tiny village in a house with no floors, only beaten earth? This isn't a beginning that one might associate with a man who would later hold a nation in his iron grip, but it is the truth. Ceausescu was born in the year 1918 in Scornicesti, a nondescript village in Olt County, Romania. This was a place of farmers and peasants, where wealth was a foreign concept and poverty a daily reality. Ceausescu's parents were peasants, and he was the third of 10 children. His father owned a small piece of land and also worked as a tailor. His mother was a homemaker, managing the household and taking care of the large family. Imagine a small, one-room thatched cottage with no electricity or running water. The floor was not made of wood or stone, but of beaten earth. This was where Ceausescu was born, and this was where he spent his early years. He shared this space with his parents and siblings, huddled together for warmth in the harsh Romanian winters. Education was not a priority in these circumstances. Yet Ceausescu did attend school, although irregularly. His formal education ended when he was just 11 years old. He started working at an early age, initially as a shepherd, and later as an apprentice in a shoemaker's shop. It was a tough life, but one that shaped his character and fueled his ambition. Ceausescu's early life was marked by poverty and hardship, but it was also marked by resilience and a fierce desire to rise above his circumstances. The boy from Scornicesti, who started his life in a house with no floors, would go on to build palaces. He would become one of the most powerful men in Romania and one of the most controversial figures in the history of the country. From such humble beginnings, no one could have predicted the rise and the eventual infamy of Nicolae Ceausescu. A prison sentence can be a career-ending event for many, but for Nicolae Ceausescu, it was the beginning of a path to power. As a young man, Ceausescu was anything but idle. Political activism was his game, and he played it with fervor and dedication. His membership in the Communist Party of Romania, which began in the early 1930s, was a testament to his commitment to a cause that was larger than himself, one that promised a radical overhaul of the existing societal structure. In the year 1936, Ceausescu found himself on the wrong side of the law. His political activities had caught the attention of the authorities, and he was imprisoned. But rather than dampening his spirits, this experience served to fuel his ambition. Prison, for Ceausescu, became a classroom of sorts, a place where he could learn from other political prisoners and broaden his understanding of the political landscape. It was here that he rubbed shoulders with some of the most influential figures of the Communist Party, figures who would later play a crucial role in his ascent to power. His time in prison also gave him the opportunity to showcase his leadership skills. He wasn't merely a passive observer, he was an active participant, engaging with his fellow inmates, sharing his vision, and slowly but surely winning their trust and respect. Ceausescu was a man of conviction, a man who believed in the power of ideas and the strength of collective action. His imprisonment did not break him. It shaped him, molded him into a leader who would later take the reins of power and leave an indelible mark on the history of Romania. So, while for many, a prison sentence might mark the end of the road, for Nicolae Ceausescu, it was merely a detour, a stepping stone on his journey towards political dominance. His story is a stark reminder that sometimes the most challenging circumstances can serve as the most potent catalysts for change. Ceausescu's time in prison was not a setback, but a stepping stone to power. In 1965, a new leader emerged in Romania. His name was Nicolae Ceausescu. With these words, we embark on a journey through one of the most transformative periods in Romania's history. Nicolae Ceausescu, a man of humble beginnings, began his journey to power in the shadows of the Romanian Communist Party. Climbing the ranks with a combination of cunning political strategy and relentless ambition, he eventually ascended to the position of General Secretary of the party in 1965. But Ceausescu was not content to simply steer the party. He had bigger ambitions. In 1967, he assumed the role of President of the State Council, making him the de facto leader of Romania. A year later, he consolidated his power by becoming the President of the Republic. The early years of Ceausescu's reign were marked by a surprising wave of popularity. He introduced reforms aimed at improving living standards, such as wage increases and easier access to education and healthcare. These moves won him support not just within Romania, but also internationally, as he was seen as a progressive communist leader. But perhaps the most defining aspect of Ceausescu's rise was his staunch determination to maintain Romania's independence from the Soviet Union. At a time when other Eastern Bloc countries were firmly under the Soviet thumb, Ceausescu pursued policies of non-alignment and national sovereignty. He openly condemned the Soviet-led invasion of Czechoslovakia in 1968 and started cultivating relationships with the West, including the United States. Yet beneath the veneer of progress and independence, the seeds of Ceausescu's autocratic rule were being sown. He began to centralize power, curbing the influence of other party members and gradually turning the Romanian Communist Party into his personal fiefdom. With his rise to power, Ceausescu started to shape Romania in his own image. This marked a turning point in Romanian history, setting the stage for a reign that would leave an indelible mark on the nation and its people. Under Ceausescu's rule, Romania became a land of contrasts. It was a world where the grandeur of the leaders' palaces stood in stark contrast to the crumbling infrastructure and poverty-stricken cities. Ceausescu's policies were a unique blend of nationalism, Stalinism, and North Korean-style autocracy. He pursued a path of self-reliance that gradually isolated Romania from the rest of the world. His economic mismanagement, driven by ambitious industrialization projects and the goal of paying off foreign debt, led to severe shortages of basic necessities. The leader's cult of personality was omnipresent. Ceausescu was portrayed as a genius, a visionary, a guiding star. His face was plastered on every wall, his speeches filled the airwaves. The media was tightly controlled, and the propaganda machine worked around the clock to maintain the myth of Ceausescu's infallibility. But behind the scenes, human rights were being trampled upon. Dissidents were silenced, their voices lost in the labyrinth of the Securitate, the feared secret police. Freedom of speech was a distant dream, and the people lived under the constant surveillance of a regime that saw enemies in every corner. In the midst of this, Ceausescu lived a life of luxury. His palaces were filled with opulence, a stark contrast to the lives of ordinary Romanians who were struggling to make ends meet. His extravagant lifestyle was a slap in the face of a population beset by rationing and power cuts. Yet despite the growing discontent, the fear of the Securitate and the iron grip of the Communist Party kept the people in check. Even as the cracks started to show in the socialist facade, Ceausescu's grip on power seemed unshakable. Despite the growing discontent, Ceausescu's grip on power seemed unshakable. The reign of Ceausescu, a reign marked by contradictions and contrasts, would continue to shape the fate of Romania and its people for many more years to come. In December 1989, the seemingly invincible Nicolae Ceausescu fell. With these words, we embark on the final chapter of Ceausescu's life, one marked by a swift and violent end to a reign that had spanned over 2 decades. The Romanian Revolution, a series of protests and riots that swept across the country, was the beginning of the end for Ceausescu. The people, long oppressed and silenced, had found their voice. They took to the streets, demanding an end to the dictatorship, the censorship, the poverty. Their cries echoed through the cities and towns, a powerful testament to their resilience and determination. As the protests grew in intensity, so did the government's efforts to suppress them. But the people's resolve was unyielding. They stood their ground, refusing to be silenced. The tide was turning against Ceausescu. His grip on power was slipping, his reign crumbling. In the midst of this chaos, Nicolae and his wife, Elena, were put on trial. The charges were severe: genocide, corruption, and damage to the national economy. The trial, broadcasted on national television, marked a turning point in Romanian history. For the first time, the people were able to see their once feared leader held accountable for his actions. The verdict was swift. Nicolae and Elena Ceausescu were found guilty and sentenced to death. On Christmas Day 1989, they were executed, bringing an end to one of the most oppressive regimes in Eastern Europe. Nicolae Ceausescu, once a powerful dictator, met a brutal and ignominious end. His fall from power was as swift as it was unexpected, but it served as a stark reminder of the strength of the people, their resilience in the face of tyranny, and their determination to fight for a better future. It was a testament to the enduring spirit of the Romanian people, a spirit that continues to inspire and guide them to this day.